Why hello today, my dear viewer. If you've been in the Retro Studio community as of recently, or just some random scrub who found their way here from my very professional art, then you've played or at least heard of this year's Halloween event, Lord UmberHallows' Revenge. And if you are a part of the Discord community, watch the mess unfold as the devs scramble to fix their restoration while being screamed at by a bunch of stupid teenagers, myself included. Seriously though, there is a lot to talk about here. Whether it be from the game or everything surrounding it, this is one big package to cover. So let's dive into... No, that's not in the notes. Oh, it is in there. Well, let's just make this quick so we can judge Lord UmberHallows' Revenge easier later. So, Hallows Eve, Ghosdeeri is a quite simple but solid event that still holds up quite well today. It's basically just a witching hour, but look, it's a marketable plushie. You get candy to buy stuff to help you either get more candy or help you fight enemies that sometimes drop items that might be better than what you have. You also have side quests that involve getting a certain amount of things like blockins around the map, or guard from vampires that you've slain, which you get some snazzy hats from. After grinding to a certain level, you get to barge into a boss arena where you can then commit homicide after dodging enough simple attacks, and maybe get something cool. Rinse and repeat, and oh look! You think that's important? After barging in and killing everything, including recolors of the previous bosses with slightly shaken up attacks, you reach the end and just nab the sinister S with no fanfare or final boss, and yeah, that's basically it. Aside from an order to get a pumpkin, which, look it up on YouTube. Yeah, I must say, for a game released only a few months after scripting was brought to the game, it's quite fun and easy to get hooked on, leaving its players with a fun experience that had quite a lot to offer for a first event. It was a nice sign for things to come to Retro Studio. Oh yeah, it was also the best event Retro Studio has ever had up to this point, because this one actually came out quite polished with its own identity. The other two aren't bad, to say the least. Just kind of felt lackluster when compared to their predecessor, with the Christmas event becoming kind of a grind fest, as you didn't waste your time beating a single item and basically beating an hour max as your king carried you, with very simple side quests that felt put in just to hit the quota for a number of prizes. And the egg hunt, which was just too easy and didn't have you do that much, meaning the eggs started to feel very samey. So, with that in mind, how does Lord UmberHallows' Revenge stack up? Let's find out. So, can you guess what the plot is? Lord UmberHallows' Revenge begins with you in a neighborhood with some NPCs commenting about how the main baddie is taking over the land, and how you stand no chance. So after figuring out where you're supposed to go, with no clues, yeah, this game doesn't do like any hand-holding whatsoever, the game officially starts. Welcome to A-Ray's Necrophilia Dungeon. How may I assist you? Here you'll discover the game's battle system, and I gotta say, they did a nice job in making an engaging system that keeps you entertained the whole way through. Unlike all the other events, there are a few mechanics to it. This being having different party members to use, a proper level up system that strengthens you and your allies up, and having an entire element system that at least tries to make you use other moves instead of, I don't know, the power of the sun! It may just be your average RPG game, but it's still good and worthwhile with Retro Studio standards. But before we get into all of that, let's talk about the building and atmosphere. How does it stack up? I mean, it's definitely good for the time period it's meant to replicate, but I don't really know how to explain it. It's, how do I say this? Kinda boring. Don't get me wrong, it has its charm. What with the old lighting and the colors aren't really bad, but it just feels like quite by the book and generic. It was excusable for the first Halloween event, as it was obviously inspired by Hallows Eve 2013, because Retro was a lot simpler back then, and oh yeah, may I remind you this was the very first event? Also, even then, I wasn't afraid to get a little creative with environments and colors. This just kind of feels like the building was a mashup of the simplicity of early Halloween events and the lighting/environments of later Halloween events to create something that looks very samey. Every area aside from last is either a small neighborhood or a different small neighborhood. I get what the game was going for, since it's a Halloween event and, you know, yeah. But there could have been a lot more variety, like with how some of the areas you have seen partners in are actually stylized. Those were quite cool. I would have loved to see more areas like that. But those are mostly just one-time things, and though the lava land is a step up in creativity, it's a very minor one. It doesn't really give the game's main villain this feeling of a real antagonist. It's your average being of pure evil. I understand that RetroStudio's data and the like might not allow more complex stuff with what was trying to be accomplished here, but you can make it work without needing too many parts, i.e. Curse of Ghosdeeri. Anyways, the lighting and atmosphere is quite nice and certainly makes the game feel less stale, but more can be added to it. I appreciate that I'm using quite a few colors, like yellow and red, not just a sickly orange, but it feels kind of underutilized in a way. Also, the lighting in the lava level makes platforming much harder since you have to squint to see if something is wedged or flat. It's a minor annoyance, but it's not a big deal. And yeah, I have nothing else to say. Overall, the building and atmosphere is quite good from RetroStudio, but there could have been a lot more done with it. With the other events, they weren't consistent, but they were still unique, whereas this event is just consistently good. Nothing more, nothing less. So, the building is good, but afraid to do anything more complicated. So, what would be more fitting, or ironic, for the gameplay than having it be the exact opposite? Yeah, the gameplay is very complicated for RetroStudio standards, and honestly, I kinda love and hate it. The RPG mechanics are quite fun to fuck around with as you progress. Gain more power with better allies and moves. You got health, level, XP, and energy, of which you need a certain amount to use certain moves. You start off with a mere punch, but gain more and more as you get more and more powerful. Basic RPG shit. Now on to the fun stuff. The other unreliability of the health bars and damage indicators making battles just end without the enemy's HP hitting 0, so you're bound to be overcompensating and getting stressed over whether you're gonna die or not. Though in the grand scheme of things, it's all quite simple, the main allies with their special moves and stats were quite engaging and felt rewarding as you progressed. Collecting them through exploring each of the main neighborhoods, leveling them up, unlocking all their moves, picking out the best ones, and just going to town whatever stands your way was very fun to do. While we're on the topic of partners, I think it should be known that the quests aren't really quests, just prizes for getting to a certain part of the game, as you get items simply from obtaining partners. Was it because of corners needing to be cut? Maybe. Does it really matter to me? Fuck no. As long as the gameplay is good enough to carry the lack of actual quests, then that's fine by me. Now, if you've been following along and already know this is just an RPG battle system, you may already know what's next. That's right, this game has an element system. Rock, paper, scissors. Use the ice move on the fire guy to saw this demon in half. Or just use the power of the sun! Yeah, it's relatively effective. Now, speaking of moves, there are many different types of support moves. Whether it's healing, shielding, weakening enemies, or whatever the fuck Jinx is supposed to do, I don't know. There's lots you can do with what you're given. Now, if you've been following along and realizing that this stuff looks really broken and flawed, you may, wait, didn't I already say this? Weird. Anyways, though the RPG turn-based mechanics and overall gameplay may be fine, in fact, probably great for RetroStudio's standards, there's a lot of problems with it. Let's list them, shall we? First of all, the miss rates are pissing me off. It's like a 25 to 33% chance of one of your moves missing, which is even more annoying when you get multiple party members and you end up missing 1 to 2 moves each turn, which really messes up the flow and just makes encounters drag on longer. It's like the devs realized how easy the game was and added missing as a band-aid solution to the difficulty problem. On the topic of artificial difficulty, the game pretty much spikes in difficulty every area. Like you're easily beating enemies with 100 to 300 health and think, I wanted to go into the next area. There should be more of the same. Boy, do I got news for you. Once again, it feels like difficulty was an afterthought, something they forgot about until right before the game's release. Next, the element system was a really cool idea. Sure, it's a shame it's never elaborated on. You're certainly told what the system is and how it works, but the game never gives you enough information. You can't see what elements the enemy has, or what moves will work better against what enemies, nor are you given an indicator that you did less or more damage than you would have otherwise thanks to the elements. You're just shown an image of what beats what, and are expected to integrate this into your fighting style without even knowing what type anything but your team's moves and your teammates themselves are. Like seriously, how are you supposed to tell which enemy has which elements? Or elements, we still don't know if enemies can have multiple or not. Like, I know that this lava monster has to be fire type, but what about this werewolf? Is it dark type since it's created by a full moon? What about these skeleton guards? Are they light type because of the word guardian and what it implies about the enemies? These types are all so unfitting. Like, you could have a skeleton or undead type to make it easier to identify this stuff, just like, not have the feature in the first place if it's basically never mentioned or shown again. just lurking in the background, pulling levers and various encounters. And lastly, remember how I said that moves can be offensive or supportive, and how there are many different kinds of supportive moves? Well, guess what? Half of them don't work. Shield move, I think you mean take full damage move. Weaken the enemy? Must have misread that one, I think it's pronounced waste of energy. Jinx? I think you mean... Seriously, like, what does it do? In fact, how are we supposed to know what any of these do besides from titles? That's another problem. These things don't have any descriptions in or out of battle. They just give you a damage number, an energy number, an element, and a support or defensive move classification. That's it. Honestly, I could go on and on and on about the various major flaws of the game that just mess with the experience for me. However, I don't want to waste 10 minutes complaining about every little thing, so know this. The gameplay is very broken, but in a kind of fun way. It has a bit of substance and engagement, with a dash of complexity. However, said complexity is never really given that much time to its full potential, leaving us with a simple game with a ton of missing content or band-aids slapped onto it. Still though, the game is just dumb fun and quite intriguing with its simple mechanics and engaging elements. So, after going through many enemies, recruiting a bunch of allies, traversing through many areas, and seeing that everything the game has to offer up to this point, you finally make it to the portal of the underworld. Not before me, two demons, Domino and Grim, who are here to help you bash UmberHallows' face in, for whatever reason. So, you take off with your overpowered buddies into the pumpkin's lair. There is of course another difficulty spike, and a slightly more interesting environment, but still not too remarkable. So you plow for the various demons, evade them as you get tired of doing the same fight over and over, climb some barely outlined rocks, and send your way up the Netherrealm. Eventually reaching a portal to UmberHallows Manor, which is awfully like a free model, but whatever. This is it. The big baddie the game's been building up for the past 3 to 4 hours. Let's fight Lord UmberHallow! We'll kick your ass back to where you came from! Spirit Halloween. You demon! Reskin and the power of the sun! And, they just die in one fucking hit! That's it. What? No ending cutscene or second phase or anything. You just win. What? I'm sorry, man. This is just pathetic. It's literally an enemy encounter with a reskinned demon slapped on. Like, you spent the entire game prepping for this fight, only to be presented with nothing. It's like the first Halloween event. It just ends without any payoff or actual challenge right at the finish line. What? There's no way this wasn't rushed as hell. In fact, To say this game had a rocky history from conception to launch would be an understatement. This game was an absolute nightmare to make from what I heard, and was only amplified by the first reaction to it. So yeah, let's go over the timeline of events. From what I've been told by one of the supporting developers, Hip Hop Benny, development started around August, with E1303 being a very good developer behind Murder and a few other games, and a few other developers working on the game. However, the supporting developers didn't do much work, supposedly, with Elon himself doing the heavy lifting. And true progress, as Benny puts it, wasn't made until around a week before the supposed release. Benny was brought on to finish the maps of the game on a suitable deadline, which explains the lack of variety in them. However, with the ultra-ambitious systems and mechanics in the game being too much for said game to handle, a ton of glitches respawned, including one that broke the dialogue of NPCs a day before the game was set to release, that being on October 29th. So you can guess that there was a sizable delay, with the game being delayed until November 1st, and even then, as you'll see, having a lot of bugs. A lot of stuff had to be cut to make everything fit and work, including more enemies and areas, and presumably a more complex fight of UmberHallow. On day 1, it was quite a mess, to put it lightly. People immediately called out the game for being bad, even before getting to its first area, which was probably due to the lack of explanation as to what the gameplay is like, or where you're even supposed to go, and calling out the many bugs. To list a few, after killing a single monster, encountering another one would mean it could not be damaged. However, it could still damage you, probably due to the game thinking that the second monster is dead. What's weirder is that sometimes, probably due to the weird way the game presents damage, dead monsters could still attack even though they were, Heaples unlocked moves, allies, and max XP will not save after leaving and rejoining, which was quite annoying. Being able to stack sprinting by holding shift and pressing the slash key, clicking, then repeating the action again and again until some might mistake you for one speedy blue bastard. There's also energy going in the negatives, and the game not prevent you from using moves that cost too much. I mean, you could spam the power! The amount of damage a move could do would stack with either XP or levels, meaning you would become too powerful too quick. Or would just become a balancing act of having enough XP to play for everything without leveling up again. And sometimes you would just have all the party members unlocked without even doing anything. Hell, there were probably others I missed which broke the game even more. With that being said, people complained, like, a lot. Sometimes warranted, sometimes not. Which meant anyone had to hop back on his desk and continue working on the game when he was probably already burnt out. As a result of this, an official event team was created to hopefully crank out much better events in the future, which really should have been made a long time ago in my opinion. And so, on November 8th, the event ended, and the game was private due to people being able to obtain prizes after the fact. And that's the end of the timeline. Really paints a picture on how the game ended up in the state that it did. So with all that being said, how does this game stack up? Well, suffice to say, it was quite an interesting game. Let me elaborate. So this game was a mixed bag as an understatement. I was really annoyed at the game at first my experience, seeing it as overambitious, which I still think it kinda was, given what I was told the game was set out to be. RetroStudio is not the kind of game that has infinite data space, you know? However, I still thought the game was fun, even with all these flaws and glitches. The combat system was entertaining enough, but I had a lot of fun beating the shit out of things, and it felt all the more rewarding when I was finally able to beat the skeleton guards, even with the difficulty spike in place. Actually, let's just call it what it is. The beam of ancestors fielding an endgame move that gets added to your arsenal when you're in like the second last level. It was fun to use before or after the end of the game, and it felt rewarding nonetheless. The amount of bugs made the game slowly get opened up for me in my experience, as if it were slowly unraveling itself for me to enjoy, which was nice. The building wasn't grand or anything, but it still felt quite fun to explore the maps and look at all the pretty lights, except the ones that weren't. So, to answer the question, was this event worth? Oh, fuck the prizes! So for this again, we got the Box Kid 01, Skeleton Builderman, Corebox Keeper, Darkseed Antlers, Undead Prince Robot, Ruby Servant Mummy, Macari Miller, Alien Hatching, Musica Messer Dominator, Ghost Fedora, Lord UmberHallows package for joining, unlocking party members, and being the prize boss respectively. And for the grand prize, we got the Doomsday card. Okay. Were any choices good or not? Well, I'd say so, yeah. These are famous nostalgic items that don't look like shit, are quite beloved and fit the quote, and quests the game has for them. Okay, enough dilly-dallying. Was this game worth it? Well, considering the simple building, ambitious combat system, buggy launch, good fitting prizes, and lackluster finale, it is in my personal opinion that yeah, it's worth it. It may be buggy, have balance issues, be a bit boring to look at, have a pathetic excuse for a final boss, but it has a lot of good parts too, like the combat, fun progression system, overall prizes, and overall it stays engaging and keeps you wanting more, while giving you, well, more throughout the whole game. It was a goofy experience and rushed, but was a good goofy experience that was rushed. So yes, Lord UmberHallows Revenge, the 2022 RetroStudio Halloween event, in my eyes, was worth it. Now, one last thing before we go. As is tradition with these videos, that was sent in tradition like one video ago, I think it's time to rank this on the event tier list. Now, it beats the Egg Hunt and Christmas event by a long margin, as I think those two are hilariously easy and inconsistent. But, what about the first Halloween event? It was simple, but looked good and had a cute gameplay loop. So, is it better than its successor? Well, no. While simple gameplay isn't bad, I like simple when it's good, it's really generic and feels like it could be for a simulator. In fact, it basically is. The bosses and quests are better, but are just small breakups so you don't lose your mind, and the game just ends, just like its successor. Having you bust down the doors of Ghosdeeri's mansion, beating every obstacle, that gives you some treasure in the sinister rest without even a final fight, or an explanation as to why it's just laying here. At least in Lord UmberHallows Revenge, there's some fight from the main baddie, even if it's just pathetic to be honest. And it's to me obvious that Lord UmberHallows Revenge has way more going on. More mechanics, more areas, and more difficulty. Like, come on, half of Ghosdeeri's gameplay is just walking into a house and getting some candy or doing an easy fight. But since it was the first event, I could give it a small pass. So, yeah, Lord UmberHallows Revenge is easily the best RetroStudio event. Though the other events aren't bad, this one just beats them out. And it's overall a lot more polished than all the others. Also, Lord UmberHallows Revenge didn't have a data loss glitch that wiped people's progress and made them do it all over again. Anyways, goodbye my dear viewer, I hope you enjoyed. See you next time, and subscribe or else Amy will make you eat candy laced with cyanide!